The Forever Winter just launched in early access. I've played it, as have many others who have identified it as one of the most anticipated extraction-ish shooters coming in 2024. And while the Forever Winter isn't solely an extraction shooter, it's PvE only and it has survival elements, its grim, dark, hardcore, and unique universe had many gamers interested, including myself, who've become bored with the slow, mundane, and boring gameplay of games like Tarkov and its countless clones in the market. It's been a while since I did a video examining an extraction shooter or a blossoming game of the moment and asking the question, what can DEADROP and Midnight Society learn from it? That's exactly what we're doing today with the Forever Winter. Let's go, there's a lot to cover. It wouldn't be a stretch to say that the most attractive element of the Forever Winter is its universe and atmosphere. As opposed to games like Escape from Tarkov, the raids in the Forever Winter take place in a post-apocalyptic world where machines have taken over, are at war with each other, and the surviving humans fight just to survive. If you ever wondered what the Terminator universe after Judgment Day might look like in a video game, this is kind of it, except the humans aren't really fighting a war, they're caught in the middle of one and they're just trying to survive. That's your objective as a player. Go in, try to get the loot and gear and supplies you need to survive. That's it. It's like being an ant in a war between mechs. This super dark, gritty, visually appealing, hardcore, punishing, almost intimidating world is a place that a lot of gamers, myself included, want to live. It's not just about going in and doing a raid and getting gear and supplies, it's about experiencing this incredible world. And that's something that the Forever Winter absolutely delivers on, even in its rough early state. I myself was initially drawn to DEADROP by its universe. DEADROP takes place in a dark, post-apocalyptic-like world where the climate wars changed the world forever, and we ended up with this version of the future where the 1980s and 90s never really ended. Delivering on the atmosphere of the existence is integral to DEADROP's success and setting it apart from games like Tarkov, which, let's face it, are just kind of boring from a world standpoint. As is most of the extraction competition, with the exception of maybe Hunt Showdown and Marauders. Midnight Society absolutely needs to ensure the game's maps and districts engage in visual storytelling, that we get to see stories in the universe unfold in some way, shape, or form, and that the game successfully builds out the world, lore, and to a degree, its characters as well. Luckily for us, the most recent trailer for DEADROP with an updated look at the current state of its visuals and the lore string references in the UI seem to indicate that we're headed in that direction. Next up is PvE encounters. While the Forever Winter is PvE only and DEADROP is PvPvE, with more of a focus on PvP than PvE by all accounts, the Forever Winter does a great job of making its PvE feel engaging. Seeing multiple factions of soldiers fight it out on a battlefield while you try to sneak through is compelling. Trying to race to an extraction point only to find it guarded by tanks engaged in a battle with a giant mech sends shivers down your spine. You have to decide how to play it out. Do I rush through and hope that no one sees me, or do I wait for the battle to play out? DEADROP should absolutely take its PvE element in this direction. Having soldier-like PvE enemies that patrol or stand guard like cleaners is one thing, but I'd love to see DEADROP take its PvE to the next level, almost like the Forever Winter does. This type of dynamic PvE element forces players to change their habits when one raid they're able to easily extract from a given point, but the next time there's a full-fledged cleaner war going on over there, or a tank or drones with turrets in the sky or whatever. Again, Midnight Society has talked about ideas like this, such as bosses behind locked doors, and the importance of PvE needing to add something to the game that PvP doesn't, but we'll just have to wait and see for how it's implemented in time. Speaking of dynamic elements, the Forever Winter also has variations of its maps in the game at launch, which I really liked. The first map that the game presented to the player had a very red sky-like variation where one raid, it's fully fledged active machine warfare, while other times you'd spawn in, the sky would be gray and it seemed like the battle was over. It felt very desolate except for these Attack on Titan-like beings slowly scrounging the remains of the battlefield. If you got spotted, you suddenly got swarmed by enemies and it was pretty much over for you. I really love this idea of having multiple versions of the same map, which the finals has been doing really well since its launch, and I'd love to see DEADROP do the same. Simple night and day variations would probably be the most basic approach, but Midnight Society has acknowledged an interest in weather events that might really change the game as well, given the likelihood of the climate wars changing the environment and perhaps increasing the likelihood of events like acid rain, for example. I really like these map variation ideas with different weather or conditions because it's a lot simpler than actually producing an entirely new map, right? Building a whole new map takes months and months and months or even years, whereas a variation of a map can be new content to players that gives something new, but probably takes less time than a whole new map. Here's one last positive thing for you as well. The Forever Winter is selling the soundtrack to the game, which the music in this game is awesome. I think that this is awesome. More games need to put their official soundtracks online, whether it just be on Spotify or for sale. Either one, we've heard some awesome music from DEADROP, so it's an easy win, right? Release that stuff, let people pay for it if they want to support the game even further. Nobody has to buy it if they don't want to. Now it's time to discuss the missteps for DEADROP to avoid that the Forever Winter has made. First off is AI behavior. Despite just how awesome the world of the Forever Winter is, the behavior of enemies in it really doesn't feel amazing. Tanks look and feel like they're driving around on an ice rink, which kind of makes them feel more silly than intimidating at times once you've seen it. It's also an ongoing issue where enemies will see you from miles away no matter where you are. I think virtually everyone is understanding of some bugs and glitches here and there, but the enemy AI really needs to be decent enough where it doesn't break the immersion of the game or feel unfair. Then there's the UI, which feels like it was tacked on at the last minute with a typewriter. The UI in the Forever Winter is so bare bones, and not in a good way, that I wondered if there was an actual UI designer on the team yet, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful. My job here is to look at the Forever Winter, look at what it's doing well, what it's not, and identify it. So that's what we're doing. Everything from the invasiveness to the font choice in the Forever Winter's UI feels off-putting to me, and I don't want any game launching in early access to mirror that mistake. And while this may be a hot take, there's also the survival elements. While the Forever Winter has never been shy about its survival design and identity, I truly find it rare in the gaming industry right now to find a survival game with compelling mechanics. Scrounging for food and water is just never going to be super interesting, ever. And the Forever Winter really went all in on the necessity of water in the game. If you don't find and extract enough water in your base or hideout, you lose all progress with the vendors in your base and you start from scratch. While I would be shocked if 12 AM ever considered doing anything like this for DEADROP, I just have to call it out. Many developers are exploring the survival space like this, as it creates an incentive to log in and grind the game, a necessity, but eventually it just burns you out, and it's simply not fun. Going into the world to find water just isn't rewarding, no ifs, ands, or buts, especially in an industry where players are used to getting, shiny weapon skins or player skins as rewards. Just surviving with some food and water just isn't rewarding. Brings us to the final point, which is more of a question. How soon is too soon to launch into early access these days? Game development is extremely challenging and costly, and for that reason, early access isn't going away. Developers can't afford to develop games in isolation for millions of dollars for 5, 6, or 7 years without providing a proof of product to gamers or a return on investment to keep their own business going, or investors. It's just not viable. And it's equally as risky to develop a game in silence for 7 years and then launch it, hoping that it lands and that you don't lose $500 million in 7 years of everyone's life. Just look at what's gone on with companies like Ubisoft or EA for the past, 5, 6 years, or Xbox for that matter. The Forever Winter acts as an interesting case study as it launched into early access at about $30 with a lot of gamers interested in it, but basically delivered a purely proof of concept build of the game. And again, this may be a necessity from a business standpoint, and they do have, hopefully, plenty of time to expand and improve upon the game. With certain elements of the Forever Winter, or virtually every element probably, could have used more time. Launching a game that is purely PvE with broken AI and enemy behavior is a questionable decision. Launching the game with an afterthought UI that probably wouldn't have taken that much longer to improve is a bit strange. While the game has a decent number of maps at launch, what's happening on all those maps all feels pretty unfinished and janky, and since that's the core of the game as a PvE game, it's a bit tough. My approach to early access is simple. If you can deliver a fun proof of concept, early access build of your game, you're in good shape. I'd rather have DEADROP launch with 2 or 3 really great maps, great gunplay and progression to keep people playing, than 4, 5, 6, or 7 maps with totally broken PvE, etc. Everyone can look past bugs, glitches, some technical issues, that stuff's expected in early access. But the core of the game has to be functional and fun. DEADROP has to nail that. Luckily, DEADROP's gameplay has been fun since Snapshot 5, so I really don't think that's going to be an issue, especially when we have quests, contracts, a battle pass, skins, final visuals, more refined gunplay, all of that which is coming, plus the console versions. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you played the Forever Winter, let me know what you think of it in the comments down below, and be sure to subscribe to the channel for more DEADROP and Midnight Society coverage, because for those things, this is your place to be. Mayor Reynolds out.